going to welcome a dreamer a day to our airwaves as we do all we can to defend DACA. Joining us now is dreamer Maria Praeli. Maria, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are Maria Praeli.
All right, very good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Ready for the day. How about yourself?
Just fine. I guess I'm ready for the day. What is getting ready for the day like for you these days, Maria, in light of the peril you and other dreamers have been put in as a result of Trump repealing DACA?
It's actually the silver lining that I say is that it's made me. I go for a morning run every day mostly now. So I wake up early. I do 3 to 5 miles in the morning. Clear my mind. I work in this space too, so it's just a nice, like, refreshing way to get ready. And before all this craziness, I wasn't really doing that. So it's kind of made me take better care of myself in that sense. So I wake up early in the morning. So I go for my run. I get ready for work. I have a healthy breakfast, and I'm on my way.
So you sound like you're keeping a pretty positive and upbeat attitude then.
The news was devastating, and it's been really, at times, difficult to have to deal with. But at the end of the day, I still want to take as much control over my life as I can. And it's hard because, the president and Congress, my future is essentially in their hands. But in the meantime, I'm going to do whatever I can to keep on going and to make me happy. And, I graduated a year ago. I'm really young, and I feel and I know that I have a great future ahead of me. So in the meantime, I'm just going to continue on living my life, I guess.
I'm glad you cleaned that up, Maria. You said you're really young because of your future. I thought you were trying to take a shot at me by saying you're really young. It made me feel bad this morning, but but that's fine. I get it now. You got a bachelor's degree in political science. Why political science? What about political science interested you?
I think just politics interested me. At one point, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life growing up, and I had my first internship in the summer of 2014. It was a summer going into my junior year of college, and it was in DC. And I just fell in love with the environment, with the atmosphere, with, like, the politics of it all. Even though right now and many times it's obviously very frustrating. Mm-hmm. And I decided that I wanted to. I was exposed to the hardships of immigration, not just through my own story, but the more I got to know other undocumented people, the more I got to realize that it wasn't just about my difficulties it wasn't just about me not being able to get a license or me not being able to go to this university of my dreams because I couldn't get financial aid. But it was just about a much greater system that was broken. And unfortunately, too many people had to live through those hardships every day. And I think that the combination of being in DC and being exposed to those people really opened my eyes, and it kind of prevailed me to want to work in this space so that folks didn't have to live with these injustices. And that's why I chose political science. And I learned a lot of theory. It was really theory heavy, had great professors. And here I am now.
So now, Maria Praeli with us, folks, our dreamer a day. Obviously, you wanted to be directly involved and engaged in the political situation that you're in, and that's good to be actively involved, as a matter of fact. So tell us what about your family. How old were you when you came to the United States?
So I was 5. I have an older sister. She's 5 years older than I am. And when she was 2.5 back in Peru, she got hit by a car and pinned up against a wall. And they had to amputate her right leg or she was going to die. So my parents chose for her right leg to be amputated. And she started getting medical treatment at Shriners Hospital. And she was growing up, so her prosthetic leg needed to be changed. She had to go through all this therapy. So we were flying back and forth consistently
Mm-hmm.
at that time to Florida. And after some time, it just started to become a little financially draining for the family. Um, my parents thought it would be best if we could move temporarily to Connecticut because we had family there. And there was a Shriners Hospital about an hour away in Massachusetts. So we moved to Connecticut, my mom, my sister, and I, and we ended up overstaying our visas. And I didn't know that. I was 5, and growing up, I knew that there was something different. There was a fear that my mom had when a police officer would drive by us, or we would drive past them. And it started to condition me to have that same fear for law enforcement without really being able to grasp why.
Mm.
And, you know, growing up, we had to find someone to register your car, to insure it because you couldn't get a license, had to find someone to co-sign a lease for an apartment. So it was all these different challenges that I knew meant that there was something different with us. And I learned that we were undocumented, but I didn't really, and I couldn't really comprehend what that meant until I was in high school and I turned 16 and I couldn't get a driver's license and I couldn't get a job, and I had to lie to my peers and make up excuses as to why I couldn't do these things. And then when I was a senior in high school, I had gotten all these acceptance letters to these universities, but I couldn't go to any of them because there was no way that my mom, as essentially a single parent who was a housekeeper, could afford the thousands and thousands of dollars it would take for me to go to one of these universities. And I think this is all over the country, but May 1st is traditionally like college decision day. So many schools, including my own, folks come in and they wear a T-shirt with with their future university on it. And, you know, it's been 5 years later now, almost 6, I guess. And that day, I still remember that day and how hard it was for me because I showed up without a T-shirt because I had no idea what my future was going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to community college where I worked really hard. I excelled academically. I was a student government association president, and I was involved in other things. And then I was able to get a big scholarship to go to Quinnipiac University, where I finished my bachelor's. And then the Deferred Action Program for Childhood Arrivals was announced on my last day of high school. So it was June 15th, 2012. I had just taken my last final. It was my history class. And my sister was texting me and calling me. And again, at that time, like I was really disconnected from the immigration movement
Mm-hmm.
because I was really mad about my status, and I was also in a lot of denial about it. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to accept it.
Right.
So I knew that something was going to change, but I had no idea how much it was actually going to impact my life. And because of that, I was able to have a side job while I was in community college. And then when I was at Quinnipiac, I was able to work in the Office of Admissions, talking to prospective students, giving tours, doing paperwork, and just kind of help financially sustain myself through the 4 years of my higher education. And I think a really big part of my story and all of that is that, and also a really big reason as to why I chose to do this work, is that in the summer of 2013, my grandmother passed away in Peru. And it had been my mom's dream to see her parents one last time. They were both very sick.
Mm.
But when you're undocumented, you can't leave the country because if you do, you're penalized and you can't come back in for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my mom's dream to see her parents. They were getting older. They were getting sicker. And my sister would tell her, Mom, like, we're going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and you're going to go be able to see Mama Chela. And my grandmother passed away.
Mm.
And my mom couldn't leave the country. And she had to watch her mother's funeral through an iPad.
Mm.
And I will never forget the way that my mom hugged the iPad as if she was hugging her mom one last time, or the screams that she let out because she was crying for her mother and she couldn't be there. And to me, that was the greatest injustice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment where I realized that this wasn't about me not being able to drive or not being able to go to the college of my dreams. This was about a much greater system that was truly broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is when I decided that I had to do something about it. So fast forward to now, I spent a few months after college out in Nevada working on engaging Latinos out there to register to vote and then go to the polls. And now I have been working with Forward US, fighting towards comprehensive immigration reform, and right now during this time to protect the 800,000 plus folks like myself.
What a moving story. Maria Praeli, Policy Associate at dreamers.forward, FWD, dreamers.fwd.us. Folks, we're on Facebook and YouTube, facebook.com/makeitplain, youtube.com/makeitplain. Now, you mentioned that the DACA decision or DACA was implemented the day you graduated from high school?
Yeah. It wasn't implemented. It was announced.
It was announced. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was announced.
So it was. Yeah.
So DACA was announced the day you graduated from high school.
The day I took my last final in high school.
The DACA was announced the day you took your last final in high school. Now, I just want to be sure I got this story right. You, at that point, did you know yet if or where you were going to college yet?
At that point, I didn't. I registered for community college like 3 weeks before classes started.
Okay. So it was DACA that enabled you to do that.
It was DACA that gave me like the confidence to know that that things were going to be okay. Kind of, you know. There's also this really big thing. It's not just being able to go to school, but it's also many times what do you do with that education?
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, if you choose to go to school, and not everyone does, and that's fine. But if you choose to go to school, some folks just want to go because they want to be educated, and other people go with the hopes of getting a career and having a comfortable life after college. So what happens if you work really hard and you go to college and you get really good grades and you learn all this information and you're ready to start your career, but you're undocumented, so you really can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a really big thing before DACA that a lot of dreamers were sharing their stories, how they had these degrees, how they were ready to work. They were, you know, they had gone to school for nursing, for engineering, you know, and they couldn't do anything because there was no pathway or no option to apply to a pathway for citizenship. And there still isn't.
Yeah.
But DACA kind of created like a small bandage on a really big cut, essentially, because there's still many people who didn't meet the criteria for the Deferred Action Program. You had to have entered under the age of 16 before 2007, have been in the country since then, had to have proven that you were in the U.S. on June 15th, 2012, when the announcement was made. You have to go through a really extensive background check. You have to pay a really big fee that many undocumented families can't afford.
Right.
So, you know, I know someone who came here a few weeks after their 17th birthday, and because they came here a few weeks after that birthday, they don't qualify for the program. So they've been here for 16 years. They've grown up here. They went to school here. They went to college here. But because they came a few weeks after that deadline, they didn't qualify. And there's many folks who didn't qualify. And, you know, you still have the larger undocumented community. So DACA was great. And it was, to my life, it has been tremendously significant. But I always still fight with, you know, having to make sure we pass the DREAM Act so that this is permanent, and then continuing to fight to pass comprehensive immigration reform.
Yeah, for those who are ineligible for DACA. In that regard, then, Maria, do you agree with those who demonstrated against Nancy Pelosi the other day? Now, the Democrats have pretty much been allies in this movement, but you had a number of immigration reform activists, dreamers, etc., that demonstrated against the Democrat, the leading Democrat in the House the day before yesterday. What do you think about that?
You know, the undocumented community is going through a lot right now, and people are handling this in different ways. And if those individuals felt like they needed to do that for their families, for their communities, then I have to respect their actions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Saying that, I also think that, Leader Pelosi has been really great in having press conferences about this and raising the issue and agreeing and making a commitment to working on this and passing a Clean Dream Act. So I think that's just the two things that I have to say. I appreciate all her work, and I look forward to her keeping on her promise to pass a Dream Act. But I also respect the folks who engaged, and I think it's fair for all of us to have to understand that these are people's lives, and it's not just the 800,000 lives that people are worried about, but many of these people are also worried about their parents and their family members who have no protection.
Okay. Maria, I must say, when we do these stories, there's usually one central theme or crisis that I can point to. We talk to a dreamer a day, that I can point to, but I mean, you have about 3 stories in one. First, your sister and her medical crisis, your story about school and high school, and then the story of your mother and your grandmother. But these are real, and I know there's not a soul who can be honest with themselves listening to the stories you just shared and act like they've never experienced that themselves, at least one of them, and not be touched by the humanity of your experience. And so, our goal here is to show that dreamers are human beings.
Yeah, I think
should be treated as human beings.
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing. And what I tell folks is, we grew up here. I mean, I grew up in a very middle class town. I went to kindergarten here. I went to like high school. I played the clarinet. I was on the basketball team. Like, we are sitting in classrooms with your children. We are shopping at the same grocery stores. We are driving on the same roads. We are mothers and fathers, and we work in different fields. We are nurses, doctors, and we're just asking to continue to live comfortably in the country that we call home and the country that we've grown up in. In many cases, the only country we know. Like I told you, I myself have been here since I was 5 years old. I'm 24. It's been almost 20 years. I get really confused with Spanish grammar, so it's really hard for me to write in Spanish. The average DACA recipient, the average dreamer came here at 6 years old, and it's now 26. Like, these are people who have grown up here. America has invested in their lives, and we have invested in our country, and we just want to continue to be able to live here and contribute back to our communities.
Maria Praeli, and of course, you're a policy associate at dreamers.fwd.us. Folks, go there to get involved, get in touch with your member of Congress, your member of the House, your member of the Senate. Ask for comprehensive immigration reform, passage of the DREAM Act. That's what we need immediately. I think this is a battle we can win, Maria, don't you?
I'm sorry, about a what?
I think this is a battle we can win, don't you?
Yeah. So just like you said, if everyone listening goes to dreamers.fwd.forward to call your member of Congress, and make sure that you tell all your friends, your parents, your aunts, your peers, your colleagues to do the same. Call your members of Congress and just ask them and call them to pass the DREAM Act. The legislation exists both in the House and in the Senate. And we need to continue to ramp up pressure and calls and let our representatives know that we want this to pass.
Very good. Maria Praeli with us. How's your mom these days? And how's your sister?
My mom and my sister are great. So we probably don't want to get into this, but the immigration system is really complex. And I live in a mixed status family, which means that we have different statuses. My sister is now a U.S. citizen.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And my mom is a green card holder. Okay. And I am still undocumented. But we don't have to get into it, but it just kind of shows you how.
Well, no, I mean, we've had other guests who've explained that before, the whole mixed status piece and the complication, like why is Why is one green card? Why is one a citizen? Why is one not Lalo? And folks, that's why we need comprehensive reform that doesn't do this, so that people can have a very clear and non-complex path to citizenship. I got into it with another guest yesterday. I did get into it, and Trump was talking about the UN being tricky, but it's actually the immigration system that's tricky here in this country, and it does get very, very complicated. But glad to hear your sister has her citizenship, and then your mom has what she needs. Now we got to get you what you need, don't we?
Yeah, that's what everyone has to make this cost to pass the Dream Act.
Yeah, dreamers.fwd, dreamers.fwd.us, folks. Maria Praeli has been our guest. Pleasure to have you on, Maria. Okay, and let's talk again sometime. Good luck to
Yes,
your
thank you for
family and good
having
luck
me.
with all your great work, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take care now.
You as well.
Bye-bye. That's our Dreamer a Day, folks. We'll take a quick break, and then we will come back. Nayara Huck joins us in studio, Signs Baby. Idris isn't here. So that's a little bit disappointing, but, we'll settle for the mommy. All right. We'll be right back. Don't go away. And Jink Euchre of the Young Turks is going to join us at the top of the hour as well. Don't go away. This is MIP.